You're welcome back. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next is the newspaper review segment. Stay with us.
Okay, and our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okolie-Obaja, is seated and taking his shorthand on his proceedings. Good morning, Chukwudi.
Doing UTME a second time on Good Morning Nigeria. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
I'm great. And
My
you?
throat is very clear today.
Okay.
So is mine.
Actually, there is something to make it happen completely. Gentlemen.
Okay, let's kick start. Okay, I will start with the Daily Times newspaper. Above the nameplate, we have, "I won't dump PDP," says Atiku. The story, it's on page 2. Abuja market sets ablaze as police bullet kills suspect. Same on page 2. Plateau governor bans open grazing. The story can also be found on page 2. Stock market sustains a winning streak, gains 836.58 billion naira. And below the nameplate, we have Tinubu meets Akpabio over Ningi's suspension. The story can be found on page 5. And the National Assembly receives Budget 2024 proposal. And we also have the ETI gets $250 million senior bridge to bond loan facility to support trade. The story can be found on the page 2. And the front page picture shows the President Bola Tinubu right, and special envoy of the president of Equatorial Guinea, who is at the State House, Abuja, to see President Bola Tinubu. And moving on to the leadership newspaper now. Above the nameplate of the leadership newspaper, we have bandit demand 20 million naira ransom for 15 Sokoto students. The story can be found on page 14. President appoints FCT Commission Chair, Head of Service. The story is on page 12. And below the nameplate, we have trending. Sheikh Gumi willing to dialogue with bandits for Kuriga pupils. Then Tinubu has you in mind, Shetima tells Nigerians. That story is on page 8. Now we have the 3 trillion budget padding, Ningi's journey to 3-month suspension. Then we have the suspension press conference. What led to the suspension? We have the suspension, the press conference, president's reaction, group chat, BBC interview, and Northern Senators meeting. 3 Borno children die, 45,783 IDPs rendered homeless by fire. That story can be found on page 12. Agora Policy offers steps for Orosaye report implementation. The story can be found also on page 22. Then we have Dayo Moboriola appointed as Nimasa DG. The story is on page 22, and Shuaibu denies being served impeachment notice. The story can be found on page 12. Victor.
Right, I have the Nation here with me, and just above the masthead. Kanu Maradi Rail, federal government meets prospective financiers. Newspaper of the year. Okay, now. Minister discourse differ on overcost of outages in homes, offices. That's on page 28. Pension funds hit 19.53 trillion naira. That's on page 7. FCT Minister Wike, Abuja security has improved. That's on page 6. 10 shops gone in Wuse fire. That's on page 27. And just below the nameplate here, Abdulrazak Ododo seek Tinubu's intervention on Ilorin Lokoja Highway. You can find that on page 29. And it has a rider, Tinubu won pan-Nigerian mandate, says Shatima. Attempts to stop him with ethno-religious fault lines failed. And then you see the picture story there at the book launch on President Bola Tinubu's emergence. Senate suspends Ningi over false budget padding claim. With the riders, Bauchi Central Senator asked for 3 months. Appropriation Committee Chair clears air on 3.7 trillion naira. Okay, I think that's about it. The other story here, I think we have read in other papers. No plan to leave PDP, says Atiku. That's on page 3. Chukwudi.
The politicians will always have something to say to the polity. No plans to leave PDP, says PDP kingpin. And the polity keeps listening to music from politics. The abduction of children in Kaduna is still a big worry to me. I think you mentioned something there. IGP is deploying a mobile police unit. And we would say, wasn't there a mobile police unit there before now? Or is it an additional one? I don't have the details of it. Let's not be reactive. Let's be proactive.
Absolutely.
That's the epicenter of all this upheaval, sometimes fatal upheaval, because lives get lost in the process. So we have to be preemptive. That's it. We have to. But it's a good thing that we are trying to do the best we can to get this done.
At least the Sheikh
is offering to
dialogue with them.
We said yesterday, we don't want to negotiate with terrorists if we had a choice. But I said again quickly yesterday, it's easy for some of us to say because we're not relatives of those who have been captured. So leave the people handling it to handle it the best way till we are able to say no, not anymore, because that is the final salvation for every one of us.
Like you have said already,
yes.
The key thing is being proactive and not reactive, because by the time you get to this stage, they're not going to say, okay, guys, come and go. They want some money, they want certain things that will aid them to do it again.
And the way they even say it is so insulting to the senses. You know, yesterday I said, is that part of the country so ungovernable? Is there territory that is no longer under the jurisdiction of the Nigerian authorities? Because these things, they rankle somewhere. They rankle. Okay, there's a report that a further 60 or 61, I saw it somewhere. You know,
just yesterday.
Yeah, but a resident said soldiers helped in ensuring that it didn't go beyond that figure. That is the kind of thing we want to hear. Yes, some were taken, but for somebody to say that soldiers prevented a further, number to those who got taken, then you begin to say maybe we're not completely at their mercy then, because the message you put out to the public ultimately matters.
You've got to also worry about it, because 4 times in probably about 10 days.
Victor, that's the point.
In less than 2 weeks.
You are expressing it better than me. It's so disturbing.
It's very worrisome.
4 times.
But
twice in Kaduna.
I just hope that the security agencies, the law enforcement agencies, they are, putting in the necessary measures to make sure that we don't experience such, in the next future. But because it's really worrisome, people go to their bed now, they cannot sleep with their 2 eyes closed.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's like...
We wish them luck, my brother. We wish them luck. But what we keep on crying for is, permit me, an Ozuemena situation. May it not happen again situation. You understand? So, it's really disturbing. It's really disturbing. Sometimes you ask, are these my fellow men? Or is this happening on Mars? We need to do something, please.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The president is meeting and, or rather, has reportedly met the Senate president and one other person concerning the suspension of Ningi. If you ask me, I felt that, however, whatever the amount of rumpus he caused, 3 months may sound a little too stretched and all that. And the Senate has to try as much as possible to nip in the bud situations like that. When everybody gets carried along, you don't see a loose cannon like Absolutely. What you just seen, a Lone Ranger observation that becomes a disturbance, you know, to the rest of the members of the Senate, you know. Then quickly from the National Assembly, Senator Jarigbe Agom is saying that the 3.7 trillion naira padded to the 2024 budget, he's saying no, it didn't happen, please. Yeah, that's it. He's the chairman of the Senate Committee on Gas. He dismissed the report and all that. They also attributed something to him. He's saying that, I think it's him. That the 100,000 they are proposing as living wage, as the least that can go out to people, it's just the reasonable thing to do. I think Nigerians need more money in their pocket in spite of the threat of inflation that would happen when more money comes in. Who was it the other time? Former presidential candidate. That's the former deputy, you know, in the CBN. Mogalu was saying the other time that part of the problem with the single market, foreign exchange market floated is that there was too much liquidity in the system. So a lot of naira chasing, you know, that's economics that I don't understand. Maybe you do better. Whatever it is, you have to be careful the amount of money that gets into the system. Giving money to workers is one thing. Being able to control the spiral that is likely to happen in terms of inflationary rate is another thing entirely. And I hope they tinker with it, whether it is by macro-managing or micromanaging. Other technical terms I don't want to go into.
Okay, Chooks, let me micromanage you this morning.
Demola, then send you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen,
for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
And be sure to break a leg.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
I just hope I don't lose my head one of these days when you say these things.
Okay. All right. So we just draw the curtain on the newspaper review for this morning. I will take a break. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.